I'll show you how we can create a local connector using eCube. So first thing you do is install a virtual environment. Next you source that virtual environment to get into it. Now you do pip install epiphani eCube. That's it. So it'll install the eCube connector and all of its dependencies. Once it is installed, you'll have to configure the eCube connector by putting your epiphani username and password into this file, and then you can run the connector. So essentially I'm going to run a connector for this laptop. I'm going to call it run CLI name Pawan laptop. The next thing, I log into the playbook editor and I can use the connector immediately. So I can just drag a node. In that node I use this new connector called Pawan laptop. I pick the run CLI action and I can give any command here. It can be a script, it can be another Ansible playbook, anything, right? And it will execute it locally on my laptop. I call it a name, saying in if config Pawan. It doesn't matter what the name you give here, right? And then you give the whole playbook a name, and then you give the playbook a description, and then you have to connect the start node to this node and from this node to the end node and make it look pretty by pressing this button, and then you can just save it and run this playbook. So this playbook essentially will run the connector on my laptop. So you can see it already executed and I got the output, and I can see the output on the Epiphany portal as well. You can also add cloud-based connectors. So I'm going to add a Slack connector. This is optional, so that I can send the output from this node into Slack as well. So I just pick the keys. I use a Jinja variable called bridge out, which I'll define in a bit, right? And then I use a send Slack. Now I need to define the Jinja variable. So I go back to my previous node. I add a rule by clicking the add rule button. I add an action and say store rows. This will take the whole output and put it in that variable called bridge out. I save this rule, I save the playbook, and I can run it again. So now when it runs, you'll see that the output not only comes to the portal, it will also go to the Slack room that I defined in the Slack connector. So you see the output showed up in the Epiphany bot, from the Epiphany bot. I can also run, now this playbook is shared from my account, so I can actually run it from Slack directory, or anybody in my team can run this playbook directly. So you can just go to Slack and talk to the Epiphany bot again. Say, Epiphany bot, what playbooks do you know? And talk to the bot in plain English. So it'll essentially at that point show you a list of playbooks that are shared by any user in that room, and I can pick this demo playbook that I just created and run it, and it'll execute it, and the output will show up again in this room. So it makes it super easy for people to run the playbooks from anywhere. That's it. Thank you.